Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Nedry from Adversity. I'm here with Joshua and Brian. Brian, can you tell us what you do for work?
Yeah, thank you for having me. For full-time work, I'm a desktop support associate at the University of Michigan. So I provide IT support for university computers that faculty and staff use. Outside of my full-time job, I'm also the board president and CEO of the Intercooperative Council of University of Michigan. We're a registered 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization that provides affordable cooperative housing to 500 students in the Ann Arbor area. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thanks. Really appreciate you joining on this interview.
Yeah, no, it's
For
great to
sure.
have you. And honestly, it's nice to hear someone that like does so many interesting things. Like, obviously like you're working two different jobs that are basically full-time jobs, if we're going to be honest. And you're working like and wearing a lot of different hats when you're doing those sorts of difficult roles. So overall,
Basically, within like your position and everything, you've done so far, which is pretty amazing, titles. And I just wanted to know, like, what are some challenges you face, of being able to acquire such a title?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely was an uphill battle for me. Like I came here from the Bronx like y'all. Um, it was a lot to like get over here and initially like planning when I first decided that I wanted to move to Michigan. Um, I kind of started right away. I was applying to school. I got a job around the same time to start saving up money, and I've started developing a plan to come out here. And then since I've been out here, I've kind of just been really doing the hard work that needs to get done, trying to get an education, support myself out here financially. I think the biggest challenge has been like how isolating all of it's been. I spent my first few months on campus living by myself. And then like when I got here, I don't really identify particularly much with the popular culture that's around here. So I tend to kind of keep to myself, but I still try to keep in touch with my close friends, my family. My brother lives out here now, so that's been a pretty big help. And yeah, I found a really core group of people that are like authentic and stuff that I enjoy spending my time with. So it's like really finding time for myself, while also doing all these things has been the biggest challenge, I feel like. But yeah, it's been a great journey thus far.
I'm glad to hear that you're also able to still find like, those kinds of connections despite having to deal with all those problems. What would you say when you first ended up entering in Michigan? You did mention those first few months you were isolated. What do you think was the biggest issue for you when you were first trying to sort of like assimilate or find your own role in that culture?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was like when I first moved, I forgot like all of my important documents, so I couldn't get a job here right
Wow.
away. And I was like relying mostly off my savings. But then when I went back home, I made sure I got all that stuff and brought it with me. So it's like being able to learn from my mistakes and like knowing it's not the end of the road just because you made one mistake or two. Um,
Hmm.
Also, I've really a big adjustment I've made is like in my own habits. Like I don't have as much reliable access to transportation anymore. So I've been really just like sticking to things that are like walkable, bikeable, really focusing more on like the local community. Although I do miss being able to travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I definitely get that. Like, in New York City, you're able to find so many like different things, like, and also everything is open 24/7 practically. So,
Yeah,
you have like such open access to like all types of stores, opportunities, adventures, and all that. And then also there's just a lot of people there too. So it's also like way more opportunities for you to meet new people and like have these different sort of situations. So I do get that. And like making that big adjustment over to Michigan must have definitely have been difficult. And I get that. What would you say though, like now that you are living in Michigan, obviously you made this change for a reason, right? What would you say are like some of the benefits or like the pros of you having made this change? And also, why did you even decide to make this change in the first place?
yeah, great question. I'm gonna answer them in reverse order because
Uh-huh.
I feel like they kind of add off each other. The reason why I really wanted to move to Michigan was like at the time I was having a lot of issues with my family. Like at the time, my dad and I weren't even speaking to each other, even though we lived in the same house, and I was like constantly arguing with people. It was just very difficult for me to attain an education and also like have a personal life because it was just very hard for me to have a personal life at my current situation. So I really took a leap of faith moving to Michigan. Um, I wanted to really become independent and I wanted to make sure that like once this choice was made, there was no going back. So it was a really big commitment for me. But yeah. Well, sorry, what
Mhm.
was the other half of the question? I forgot.
And then like what were like some of the benefits? Because like obviously you made this change for a reason. You're bringing it up. Like, it's very difficult for you to be able to try to attain an education at home because you were at college at home. But then now that you're moving to Michigan and you're
Yeah.
pursuing your educational pursuits there instead, would you say that that ended up benefiting you? And if so, what were the benefits of moving over to Michigan?
Oh yeah, I think it definitely was benefiting me a lot. Like this place has access to resources that I don't think I ever would have been able to have before. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've gained is my independence, just being able to live on my own, be able to decide what's right for me and kind of, be involved in the systems around me. Like it's given me that foundation that I need to be in the world, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
get that. Yeah, that independence is definitely extremely mobilizing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I
totally agree. Like that the independence, leaves so much room for growth. You know, I just really wanted to ask, what exactly would you say is your passion? I know you said like earlier you spoke about IT and tech, but can we get a deeper dive into like your passion and drive?
yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say I had like any passion in particular, but my passion has always been helping people, especially helping people help themselves. Like when I was younger, I wanted to grow up to be a scientist, epidemiologist, really, because my dad has diabetes and I really wanted to help him and people like him manage that. When I was in high school, I did an internship with the Rockefeller University. And at the time, my mentor told me that all of her friends who were epidemiologists also had backgrounds in political science. So when I first got into college, the school that I went to, Lehman College, they didn't have an undergraduate public health program. So I ended up doing the political science track and I found that I enjoyed it and I did really well. So I stuck with it. From that, I kind of pivoted my career path. Instead of doing epidemiology, now I'm interested more in like law and politics. But at the end of the day, I still want to help people. So I want to use my knowledge to, be more involved in the systems around me. I learned that the world was set up in a way that keeps people like us oppressed. And I learned that people use their positions of power for like their own goals of self-aggrandizement and to extract profit from people like us. So I want to be at the table where the decisions are being made. And I want to be an example of people to show that through hard work and effort and, just standing up for yourself, you can make change in the world that you want to see.
I think that was a very well put together response, like especially when it comes to like advocating for yourself when you're at that table, because that's the thing. Now we do have opportunities as people of color to be at the table, but it only happens once we do push for us to get noticed because a lot of the times we're putting in just as much work and we're not getting the advancements in our career that we wish we were. Meanwhile, we're constantly seeing people that aren't as qualified getting those sorts of career advancements. So I definitely can understand and empathize with that, Bryan. And yeah, no, thank you so much for like also delving into and explaining how your passion ended up diverting towards law and politics. So, how would you say that desire to help people? Do you feel like you bring that into your role as a desktop support associate?
Oh yeah, for sure. 90% of the issues I solve aren't problems with the machine. It's kind of like the person using it not necessarily knowing, not through any fault of their own, A lot
Hmm.
of these people, they're like professors or staff members. They have like things that they need to do outside of their job, and they just want this computer to work, right? So my job is to kind of bridge that gap in understanding of letting them know this is how you use the machine properly as intended to get the result that you want. And, to do that, a lot of the times, my customers are frustrated. You never call IT for a good reason. So I'm
Hmm.
always going into like an uphill battle of like, calming them down first and assuring them everything's going to be okay, and then explaining what the process is and how we're going to solve it. So it's like just knowing how to, at the end of the day, like it's just dealing with people,
Hmm.
managing their expectations, and letting them know that I'm going to be there for them. And it's not something that like is I have to basically pretend like it's not arduous for me sometimes to like be like, even if their computer is an entire shit show, I have to be like, okay, we can fix it. It's not the end of the world because it's never the end of the world. We can always work something out, but we just have to be committed to it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like that, and like honestly, it's amazing that you're also bringing that because it definitely makes customer service come with a bit more of like actual consideration and care. I feel like, and like there's a lot of people that are in these sorts of roles that aren't really like providing that sort of support towards the people that they're providing support to. And I honestly think that you're doing a good job of being well-rounded in doing so.
Yeah,
And I
I think it comes a lot from like helping my mom and dad with their computers when I was younger. So like now when I go to help these people with their computers, I just like pretend like I'm helping my parents. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna yell at my parents, you know?
Thanks. I
Yeah, but
respect
and the
that.
age gaps are pretty much around the same too because they're professors, right?
Yeah. No, really. Yeah, some of these people are old enough to like be my parents.
That's hilarious. Um, so now I wanted to focus a little bit more on your role as a president of the ICC because I think that's really interesting. I do remember previously in some of our conversations you've mentioned that you also, as a part of your job, do lobbying in Washington, D.C., right? So, I wanted to ask you, how do you balance the full-time job of your IT role over at the University of Michigan while also having the expansive role of being the president of the ICC and having to do things such as lobbying in Washington?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's definitely a lot. Um, I think the main thing that I have is like time management skills. Like when I get out of work, I get home and I have a few hours a day before I go to bed. So, what's the most efficient way that I can use my time? You know,
Mhm.
like a lot of what I do is like research and learning and preparing for things. So I'm making sure that I'm doing it in pieces, you know, like I'm not consuming it all at once because, when you eat too much, you can choke. And to
Yeah.
put, for lack of better words,
No,
so
for
like I
sure.
just, I just, how do you eat elephant, right? One piece at a time. So you just take it step by step, day by day, and just, over time, those things add up. Like the lobbying trip that we took to DC recently we started planning for that in November of last year. So it was really something that we has been in the works for a while now. And when it came to like taking that time, I took the whole week off of work to dedicate like my full amount of effort to that. So it was something that really took the effort of multiple people over multiple months to pull off.
Nice. What would you say are like some of the challenges that you might have faced in terms of trying to organize such a large trip? It took a long time. You're obviously
Yeah.
the president, so you're in charge of like managing how the team is organizing this trip. So yeah, what were some of the challenges?
So I didn't really organize the trip much. We had my general manager helped do that with help with
Mhm.
his assistant. Our shout out to Jared. He was the one who like did all the planning together for the trip. But yeah, he was like working with people from across the country. I think the major difference was like getting everyone together because, I was representing us folks in Michigan, but there was also folks from Minnesota, uh, the other side of the state of Michigan. There were people from Texas and California. So getting us all together on a Zoom call was kind of difficult. But yeah, once we got together, once we got that core group of people together, like we all just the chemistry was great. We all just vibed and we got to work. Um, Definitely
Nice.
another like thing that was really important was just like when we were there and when we were present in the room,
Hmm.
we all had roles. So like before we even met with the staffers, we like planned everything out beforehand. We at the night before we like met at our Airbnb and we went over everything, like who's going to be saying what different things we're going to be bringing to the table based on our co-ops. So like we were really efficient with planning everything out beforehand. And I think it
Nice.
definitely helped during the meetings because like when there was like moments that were quiet, somebody knew what to say because they practiced beforehand.
Cool, cool, great. Now I'm glad to hear that that ended up working out. Joshua, do you have any questions?
What is something that you would tell a lot of young or middle-aged folks out there, or any age, honestly? Well, I was obviously not younger than 18, right? What would you tell them that if they want to pursue a dream or career and they want to also move, but there's like so many doubts and fears? What would you
Yeah.
tell them, like how to prepare for such a change, or and what comes with that? Like you said earlier that you made an accident of forgetting documents, like there's so many like different things you do differently if you kind of knew how it would be beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. I would say like the biggest piece of advice is if it's something that you want to do and something that you're really interested in, start now. The best time to start is now. Definitely. Like once I decided I wanted to go to Michigan, um, it even though like it was like a year before I would even move, I started working and started putting money aside for that. And I started at the same time I was looking into the school that I would be going to. I was looking into like planning how I was gonna support myself financially or do all these things. Just come up with a plan and start now. That's my biggest piece of advice. The second piece of advice I would give is like, it's going to be hard, but a lot of hard things in life are worth doing. Like, and a lot of easy things in life aren't worth doing. So really being able to take up those hard tasks and not be discouraged because it's difficult, but be encouraged because it's difficult. You're getting through this very difficult thing, and sometimes, making those mistakes and learning from it is part of the process, and it's very important that you're not discouraged by the mistakes that you made during the process because you are going to make some. I made a pretty big mistake. I've made more mistakes since then, and every time I do, I just try to learn from them and grow.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're still alive, right? Like you're gonna make
Yeah,
these mistakes.
Yeah.
Like if anything, mistakes are essentially just proof that you are constantly putting in effort and you're trying new things. And honestly, I think that that's a really sound piece of advice to give to people that are scared to make that kind of drastic change. But now I would really like for you, like, I mean, if you feel comfortable to talk a little bit more about like your personal strife with having to move, because I think that like a lot of the main hesitance for people to make that big change is because they are basically abandoning everything that they know, right? Like you've lived in this community for decades at this point, right before you decided to move over to Michigan. You have an entire sense of community that you have fostered here with your identity, whether it be your race, your culture, or just your family and friends, right? So how was it moving over to Michigan? And then also, how do you feel now having made that change? Like obviously, like you have acknowledged in many ways that you have benefited from it. So essentially, do you think that it's worth it? And then also, what advice would you give to people? Sorry, this is a really long question. Also, what advice would you give to people also trying to stay authentic to themselves while making that kind of change?
yeah, great question. Um, I would say it really, really was difficult. Like I basically did abandon like my whole life to come over here. But I think, when you're gonna like a painter doesn't start on a canvas that's already there. They're gonna start on an empty canvas. And I think this move for me has kind of just been like a reset. I've basically turned myself into a blank canvas that now I can paint the story that I want to show the world. And I've really taken this opportunity as that. Like I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm away from everything that uh like all of my attachments to the world previously, and now I can reinvent myself. I can become somebody new. So I've really taken that aspect of the opportunity to heart, and it's definitely helped me, like as I mentioned before, gain my independence. Like I think I've become a more impassioned, empathetic person because of this move. Like I sympathize a lot with people who had like came from other countries and made these moves for their own personal decisions. And yeah, I think it's definitely been a very difficult challenge, but I say it's been worth it. You know, um, I wouldn't have been able to have this opportunity had I stayed in New York. It's just too expensive over there. But
Mhm.
having come to the Midwest, I've been able to like financially support myself and really gain that foundation that I need. And hopefully I can come back to New York and continue to do it. The way I envision it in my head is that like this isn't like a permanent move, but like now for the time being, I don't have any intention of moving back either. It's like
Mhm.
I'm very much still growing and learning, and when the point I feel comfortable going back, I'll do it. But like I'm not in a rush.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I think it's cool that you also like envision yourself going back over to New York eventually, and that you see like Michigan as like this period of growth. I think that also on top of that, it's just fantastic that this change has ended up being very fruitful for you. And also, just to anyone that's watching right now, I'd also like to say, um, while Bryan's change is moving, your drastic change could be something that's completely different, right? So always like keep in mind, uh every change that you make comes with these very specific challenges, and you have to be able to adjust to them, and also keep in mind that you're going to become a better person because of it, just like how Bryan did with his change and moving.
For many people, when they make these different changes, as Janendry said, sometimes when they make these big moves, what happens is that they get very focused on their job and they forget about their health. Like, what are some good advices that you have, Bryan, of like how to keep up with your health while also trying to survive on in a new environment?
I think like just making sure that you take time for yourself. You can't help people if you're not in a good position yourself, right? You need to take care of yourself first. That's why like when you're on the plane and they give you that like safety demo of stuff, they always tell you to put your own life mask on first before you help somebody else because you can't be there from somebody else if you're not able to give them your 100%. And in order to give them their 100%, you have to take that time for yourself and make sure that you are well taken care of. You have needs as well as a person and as somebody that needs to, you have to
Mhm.
care for yourself as you would care for others because you would care for others as you care for yourself. I don't know.
No, no, I think
I
that's a really
think,
great way of putting it. That's amazing. Yeah. I also want to ask, so when you were facing all of these challenges over in Michigan, when it came to adjusting to being independent and as you're currently growing, have you had any mentors that helped in this transformation? And if so, how did they help you?
yeah. When I was a student, I got a job working for the university as a desktop support temp, like just as one of their student employees. And the
Hmm.
full-time employee that I work with, his name is Keon. He really like let me take a lot of initiative on my own. Like, he made sure I got a good foundation first, and then he challenged me to take on my own tickets and to like work with people. And I worked with him for about 2.5 years, and like during that time, he let me take on like set up roles for people who were like chief administrator of the department or like other executive level staff. And I was doing all that stuff as a student. I feel like he recognized that I had that drive in me and he wanted to challenge that and give me opportunities to grow. And I really appreciated that from him. And now as I'm coming into fruition as like my own person, I want to be able to give that back. Like I have a student in my office now. And even though we're not that far apart in age, I try to give him things on his own to do. And like I show him that like, you could do more. I want to be that example for people, as the same way that Keon was a mentor for me,
That's nice seeing it come full circle too.
right? And even in my co-op, like I really appreciate the entire way like our organization is run, like we're a student-run organization.
Mhm.
Um, People live in the houses, they do chores, they work, they take up leadership roles. This whole organization was started during the Great Depression by like people who got together and formed a co-op in order to provide for each other's needs. And we're only around today because people still continue to take up that effort. So I really want to just put in my work and make sure that this organization is going to continue to exist well into the future so that other people can enjoy the same benefits that I got to enjoy. So
Yeah,
like in
no.
that sense, I don't really have a mentor for the co-ops, but like
Mhm.
my mentor is looking at the people who came before me and like learning the history and learning all that appreciation. That's really what drives me.
Ah, okay, I see. And I think
Yeah.
that's really great. Like the fact that I mean, first off, the things came full circle with like you being a mentee and now becoming a mentor when it comes to being desktop support. And then also now with you also setting things up uh for success with the ICC as you are leaving in May, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's definitely fantastic. And also, I think that it's also particularly amazing that your willingness sort of to kind of just absorb these ideas, like a sponge, like you with your mentor, he definitely was challenging you and you accepted those challenges with enthusiasm and you were ready to obviously like work and succeed in these roles eventually because of that eagerness to grow. The values that are exposed by the ICC, like I truly do see how like you embody that. And I think that it's amazing that such an organization had an impact on you and that were able to like thus were like also be able to provide great contributions back to that organization as its president. And now you're trying to set it up for success to continue on and further support students at the University of Michigan. And I think that's absolutely amazing. How would you say, in terms of developing strategies or habits in order to conquer these issues, right? I mean, like we've been saying this entire interview, you've been working two full-time jobs essentially. That takes like a crazy amount of level of time management. Is What strategies have you developed in order to deal with that? And what would you say helps you stay grounded and focused in achieving your goals?
I think definitely what helps me deal with all that stuff is like kind of compartmentalizing all of it.
Hmm.
Like there are some things that I have different hats that I put on definitely, but I also need to put on a hat for myself in my own personal time. So
Uh-huh.
like when I'm doing my IT stuff, I'm not doing president stuff, and when I'm doing my president stuff, I'm not doing IT stuff. And then when I'm doing neither of those things, I'm focusing on myself. Like, and I make sure that when I'm focusing on myself, I'm doing neither of those things. So it's like making sure that I dedicate specific time to each of these things and I'm not double dipping. Because that's really easy to get overwhelmed when you do it like that.
I'm saying this is like someone like with ADHD, like, I constantly like my mind is just moving like a million miles a minute. So like I always am thinking about one thing and then my mind automatically changes to the other. And as someone who is working and is also a student at this time, I definitely do struggle with that sometimes. Like I'm at work and I'm prepping lessons for my students and then afterwards I'm like, oh wait, but I have this assignment. So like I go real quick and I open up a tab and I start doing the assignment and I'm like, wait, no, I'm at work right now. I need to be doing things specifically for work, not my classes. So then I try to focus my attention back over to work. Um, but I definitely like can say that when I first started working at my job, that was a really big struggle for me. And like you said, double dipping, it's not going to end up well because then everything just ends up being a very chaotic mess, to be honest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
stretching yourself thin.
Hmm. And then also it makes that time that you try to take for yourself personally less enjoyable because now you're thinking about all these different things that you forgot to
mhm.
do at work in the back of your head. And honestly, that's no way to really like, live your life, because then at that point you're constantly stressed and you're not really able to like fully enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say that
mhm,
I came to realize that because when I was a student, I was also like, an employee and also doing things for the co-op and like I was definitely double dipping a lot. And I kind of learned that like the thing that took the most hit because that was my personal life. Like I was doing too much and not having that good work-life balance meant that I just didn't have a life. And that was the thing that's like the biggest hit. And once I realized that, I decided to, started to set more clear boundaries with like what my time is invested in. And I think that's the most important thing, like set boundaries and stick to them.
mhm. Yeah. How would you say, what kind of systems do you have set in place to ensure that you have those boundaries?
Yeah, so I like to set aside time to do things. Like I have a planner that I use to write things down,
Hmm.
and I like to write things down. I don't use like a digital planner because
Yeah.
I also have ADHD, and for me it's just easier to remember things when you write them down because you get like that tactile feedback of like actually writing it.
Hmm.
So I make sure I write things down so I don't forget them, and I block my time. Like I'll say, okay, I'll do this for this amount of hours after work, or like I have this much time on Tuesday after my meeting, so like I can fit in this activity.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that's really helped. And then when I don't have time, or like when I have free time, I make sure I'm not like doing things. Like if somebody's like, "Hey, can I meet with you during this time?" and I'm like, "No, I don't have anything scheduled for then, but that's my free time."
I like that. That it's also good to have that personal boundary for yourself too, in terms of like social battery, making sure that you're able to maintain that too. Because like, there is sometimes like, yeah, you have personal time, but you want it to actually be for yourself. You want to be able to like just scroll on your phone for 10 minutes, or like just watch a YouTube video that you've been meaning to watch for a few. I think
Yeah.
that's great for you to be able to also carve out time specifically for yourself, also outside of just like going out, you know?
I used to schedule meetings for my lunch break at work. I stopped doing that. I hated it because there would be like I would just meet the whole time and then I would forget to eat lunch and then I'd go back to work hungry and it
That
would
happens to
Oh,
suck.
me
yeah,
sometimes.
that's crazy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with that. The lunch block that I have in school is like 20 minutes or like 25 minutes. So I I really struggle with it because I'm just like, oh, I can just get this done and not worry about it when I get home. And then I'm like, wait, no, like, what are you doing? Like now I haven't eaten, and then when I'm teaching, it's way more difficult. So I definitely do get that. I gotta take some, I gotta take your advice on that. I gotta keep my lunchtime specifically for myself, no lie. Um, my bad though, Joshua. It seemed like you were gonna say something.
Oh no, yeah, that's all I was saying is just that like I agree. That whole part of like being able to not use your lunch break for work is
Hmm.
really important because you're spending that much time working. You know, your brain is a computer. Be kind to it. You know, it could overheat and then you crash. So if you're not eating, you're not giving yourself that break. You know, that crash is gonna come sooner or later, unfortunately.
Yeah, nourishment is definitely important too, making sure that you're well nourished. I had to keep that in mind when I started teaching a lot too, because you'd be surprised how easily you get dehydrated. Like I really wasn't thinking about it, but I really am just speaking for like such a long period of time, standing, walking around, doing stuff. So I definitely do get it in that regard. And like I could imagine with you, Bryan, like they got you running all over to all different parts of the campus, dealing with these tickets. So I could imagine how stressful it is and how easy it would be. Like since you also have to deal with the ICC stuff when you were first starting, like managing both of these roles, how like sometimes they could have bled into each other and led to those challenges. And I think that it's amazing you have these systems built in place to ensure that you're efficient in every single role of your life, whether it be both of your work positions or your personal. Um, and yeah, honestly, overall, I think that was basically all the questions we really had for you, to be honest.
Yeah. So before we wrap things up, I guess like my last thing that I'd like to ask is, you know, your best like motivational quote that you have for us out, the people out there, and for me and Janendri, like your best motivational quote or something, uh,
Like
according to
make your own quote right now. Like we want
yeah,
something like dash Brian Pagan when
yes,
when you're a fucking senator in the
no,
future.
because we know you're goated, bro. Come on.
Yeah, come on. We need a quote. We need a quote from Brian. Let's think about it. Let's think about it. What is it? What's it
Uh
gonna be?
uh I don't know. I mean, I feel like the main thing that I want people to take away from this, and first off, I just want to say that like I love your guys' content, you know. I feel like you guys bring such a fresh, authentic taste to like the whole perspective of like, you know, this whole inspirational content kind of thing. And I really love your whole brand and like the whole idea of rising above adversity. I feel like a lot of people like us really need that, you know. Like I don't know. A lot of the motivational content that comes out now, I feel like is kind of not authentic. You know, they're like
Mhm.
really pushing this agenda, and I feel like a lot of it is negative. You know, like a lot of that manosphere kind of stuff of like self-improvement BS. That's not real. That's not really improving your lives. But you guys are bringing that real, authentic like engagement to people, and I feel like y'all are the example that we need in this generation. But I think if I had a quote, you know, to let people know that and be really authentic with it is that like the easy stuff in life, it's easy to take the easy way out. Like we can get distracted, we can go on our phones now. Like the the world around us is set up like in a way that is convenient, right? Convenience is a commodity for us in the US and in the world around us. Like we pay for things to be more convenient, and the more convenient things are, the more attractive they are to people. I think like, but a lot of us also really feel that sense of community is missing, and community is inconvenient sometimes, you know. Like sometimes somebody asks for help and it's an inconvenient time for you, but being there for them is important. And doing those things that are inconvenient but also like very difficult are rewarding in their own right. And you would want somebody to be there for you, so you need to be there for others as well. um yeah, just things that are inconvenient in life and that are hard, don't take them as like bad just because they're inconvenient. Convenience isn't a measure of something being good or not. And I think, as long as people are willing to do the difficult work and make those efforts to improve their lives, I want to see that and I want to help you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Honestly, I think that's a really great way to put it. Most of the rewarding things in life, most of the most virtuous things in life tend to be the most difficult obstacles for you to overcome. Uh, but they're there for a reason, and they help set you on a path for success, and they help you develop the characteristics that make you a better person. And honestly, thank you so much for your kind words when it comes to the brand. When Joshua first started it, I always supported it, and I always told him, "Hey, if you ever needed somebody to help you out with this stuff, I would definitely love to be a part of the brand because I agree with this message." And just like you said, there's so much inauthentic self-improvement stuff out there. Like that Andrew Tate, Manosphere stuff, like those YouTubers that are like Hamza or like, all these other people that are like, they're giving like decent advice when it comes to like workout stuff and like, how to like I guess groom yourself for maybe people that like I guess maybe not, don't have a father. So maybe those things are like beneficial to these kinds of people. But they also like sell it in this package with a bunch of misogynistic ideology and these ideas that you need to be incredibly successful in the monetary sense in order to be a person of value when that's not true. Being a person of value is having a consistent set of morals, a consistent set of character. And that's why, at Above Adversity, we're trying to retake that self-improvement name and like trying to own it back with that positive mentality. So overall, like, thank you so much for like your kind words, acknowledging the message of the brand, and also just taking your time to just like answer all these questions with us. Like, it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I love the brand. I love you guys. And if y'all ever need like a Midwest correspondent, let me know.
Yes, sir. Wait, also, just for the content, Joshua, I need you to turn around. I need you to show the logo. I need a rating on the logo
of
real quick.
course.
Oh,
Uh,
fire.
got you right now.
Yeah. Yo, that's fire.
Yo, we got the koi fish logo. Looking to hear more stories from all types of individuals. We want to hear about the problems that you were able to face and how you were able to overcome them. So go ahead, click the subscribe button. Make sure that you like the video. And honestly, I hope that you all have a great day. Make sure that you give your 100% effort in fighting your problems.